Betting on me. It's time to get it checked, boy. You on the sideline, you ain't made the headlines, now it's time to reject, boy. You betting on me. What's the topic of discussion? What you talking about? Take your best shot, I'ma take the last shot. I'm Jordan in the clutch, boy. You betting on me. It's time to get it checked, boy. You on the sideline, you ain't made the headlines, now it's time to reject, boy. You betting on me. What's the topic of discussion? What you talking about? Take your best shot, I'ma take the last shot. I'm Jordan in the clutch, boy.
Alrighty, guys, my name is Aaron Robinson, and I am joined, as always, by my twin brother, Andrew Robinson, for another episode of the Auto Bid, man. It's been a great first 2 weeks of college basketball, man. There's been some great wins, man, some upsets, man, and we're going to definitely dive right into it, man. I mean, we put out our mid-major rankings, the week 2 rankings. And we definitely had a lot of teams that were some shakers and movers, man. But before we get into those, I want to remind you guys, as always, to make sure you guys are giving this podcast a like. Make sure you guys are subscribing to this podcast, man. If you're listening on Apple or Spotify, man, make sure you guys are giving us a rating, man. Tell a friend and tell a friend about the Auto Bid, man. If you see our content on social media, make sure that you give us a retweet or a like. For those that are new to this episode, man, we are on Twitter at All Facts Media, on Instagram as well at All Facts Media. We're also on YouTube at All Facts Media, and then our blog is allfactsmediainc.com, man. So make
TikTok.
Oh, we also got a TikTok, yes, sir. A new part of our platform, man. All Facts Media on TikTok as well, man. Make sure you guys are tapping in to our content on all platforms, man. And our guy Pull Up Tay, you heard him on the intro, man. Just dropped his new project, man. Make sure you guys are streaming that on Apple Music, Spotify, wherever you guys are listening to my man music, man. Make sure you guys are tapping in to his content, man. It's gonna be him on the intro and the outro, man. The hottest new artist, man. Pull Up Tay. Make sure you guys are bumping my man music, man. Also, we're going to have later in the show, Davonte ticket gains from George Mason after their huge win last night over the University of Maryland, man. So stay tuned for that interview. It's coming later on in this episode, man. But, Andrew, man, it's been a great first 2 weeks, man. How you feeling right now?
Feeling great, man. You know, a lot of great college basketball games. You know, we had a lot of, like you mentioned, man, a lot of movement in our mid-major top 25 rankings, man. But, you know, it's been a lot of fun, man. Pandemonium, to say the least.
Yes, sir, man. So we're going to dive right into these new rankings, man. We got a couple new entrants, man. We got a lot of movement from our week 1 rankings to our week 2 rankings, man. Some guys, you know, got turned to a pack. Some teams got caught in traffic, man. Northern Iowa being one of them that is no longer in a ranking, man. Western Kentucky, Louisiana Tech also, you know, are no longer in our rankings, man. We got some new entrants, man. We got George Mason out of the A10 coming in at 15. UC Irvine is a new entrant, I believe. Miami of Ohio is a new entrant this week in the poll. I can't remember, but that's a few other new entrants, man. But, you know, what are your we'll start with you, Drew, man. Obviously, BYU was able to get a huge win over Oregon the other night, man. Belmont, obviously, they lost week 1 to Ohio, who's made a huge jump in our poll, but then they turned around and they beat a great Furman team, man. Furman obviously was able to get a win over Louisville. I mean, what are your kind of biggest takeaways from the week 2 rankings of this week?
Yeah, man, I think, you know, first and foremost, you know, BYU's rise, you know, to 3rd. I think they actually have a case. You know, these rankings came out on Tuesday, you know, so I believe that I think BYU got that, you know, that big one over Oregon, I want to say on Tuesday evening, so right before these rankings came out, because they actually have a case to be up there, you know, at number 1 or number 2 spot. A lot of people have them, you know, they're going to be in the top 25, you know, for this next week coming up after that win over Oregon. So definitely shout out to BYU. But I mean, I think the biggest storyline for me in these rankings, man, is the SoCon, man. We have Furman and Chattanooga, you know, both entering the top 25 at 12 and 13 respectively. A lot of people obviously kind of had you know, I think it's kind of a battle over who should be above who. You know, we kind of lean towards Furman, giving them the edge because they had that big win over Louisville. But, you know, Chattanooga definitely had a big-time road win over Loyola Marymount as well. So shout out to those 2 guys. The SoCon is going to be amazing as always. We also show some love, as Ace mentioned, to the MAC, the other MAC. You know, we are the East Coast MAC stands on this side, but, you know, the Midwest MAC has 3 teams in, you know, in Ohio, Buffalo, and Miami of Ohio. As the Miami of Ohio was able to get a big-time win over Georgia Tech. And so shout out to the MAC. You know, it's going to be a strong conference. Obviously, Buffalo played Michigan to the wire up in Ann Arbor on the road in their first game. So, you know, that was a huge game for them as well. But For us, man, obviously we're big D&V guys. So definitely gonna show some love to George Mason. I think that again these rankings came out, even before they were able to get that win over Maryland. So they're 15th in our rankings now, but I can almost assure you guys that they're going to be a lot higher in our mid-major rankings come next week if they can continue to win. So nonetheless, man, I think a great week. If you guys haven't checked out our mid-major rankings, make sure you guys head over to Twitter to check those out. Let us know if you think your team should be higher or lower. There's some teams you think should be in. But nonetheless, man, a great week of college basketball.
For sure, man. I think I'm very confident that George Mason will be moving up in the rankings next week. BYU obviously definitely has a case to move up. We're going to see what happens here with St. Bonaventure. They're in a tough one right now with Boise State. But if they drop that one, they're definitely going to be bumped from that number 1 spot in our rankings coming in the next week. So, we'll see if they can survive this scare. And even if not, man, we might get to reevaluate, man, because Boise, BYU look convincing, man. They're going to be a top 25 team next week nationally. So, definitely going to be some tough choices being made, man. But there's a few teams that are going to have some opportunities to move on. Obviously, Iona got a big win on Tuesday over Hofstra. They're going to play Liberty actually tonight. By the time this podcast airs, that game will be airing on ESPN in the MAC A-Sun Challenge. So we're going to get a top 25 matchup this evening between those two teams. Obviously, Rick Pitino and Bob Ritchie are two of the best coaches in the country right now, regardless of level. And Iona and Liberty are two of the best mid-major programs. Both of those guys were in the NCAA tournament last season. So it's going to be a huge game taking place in that MAC A-Sun Challenge. So make sure you guys tune into that game tonight on ESPN, man. So, there's definitely been a few teams, man, that have gotten caught in challenge, man. Nevada's one of them. We're going to talk a little bit about them later on. They're going to have a little bit of an opportunity to bounce back. But you mentioned that George Mason and Maryland game, man. I had the opportunity to be at that game last night. And, one thing that stood out to me about Mason, man, those guys, we've heard Kim English say it, man, these guys are not mid-major. We have them in our mid-major rankings purely because the A-10 is not a Power 5, Power 6 league by definition. But those guys are really good, man. We're going to have Davonte Ticket Gaines on later on in this show. He's a transfer from Tennessee. Deshaun Schwartz, transfer from Colorado. Davon Cooper came from Morehead State, who was in the tournament last year after winning the Ohio Valley, man. All three of those guys, man, are older guys, proven guys. Schwartz and Ticket both have played, multiple years in, Power 5 conferences. And Josh Oduro was nasty. That dude is a pro, man. This dude, like, the moves that he makes and shots that he makes, man, the poise that he plays with is honestly crazy to see, man. He plays well beyond his years. This is his 3rd year in college, and he looks like a seasoned veteran, man. That guy's going to have a chance to make a lot of money playing basketball one day, man. But, Mason is surely one of the top 15 teams on this poll. I think after this week, they might have a case for the top 10. They're going to play James Madison tomorrow on the road. Obviously, James Madison and George Mason have a history, man. That's a long-standing CAA rivalry, man. So that's going to be a big game. Mason is traveling to James Madison for a true road game over there. So, that's going to be a tough game for them. James Madison is one of the better teams in the CAA this year, man. So they definitely got some work to do, man. Can't take a loss there. But I'm excited to see, how this weekend shakes out with the games that we're going to see, and then excited to definitely dive into next week's poll, man, because we're going to have a lot of movement on our all facts rankings.
For sure, man. Definitely going to be a lot of movement without the poll, the whole year, man. One thing about mid-majors, it's tough, man, because there's so many teams, so many, coaches that are doing a great job out there. But one thing I have to say about George Mason is, and Joshua Oduro specifically was, he took Kudus Wahab out of the game. Kudus Wahab was a top 5 transfer this year on the market. Obviously, was one of the key pieces in leading Georgetown to the tournament. Last year, a lot of people, had high hopes for him. This season at Maryland, I think he's going to have a great year. But, Oduro didn't score a lot of points. I think he only had 12 points last night. But, Wahab was essentially unplayable, because of, I think, just the way George Mason was playing. I think down the stretch, man, we saw a lot of Julian Reese lineups for Maryland. But, he was clearly the best big man on the court last night, Josh Oduro. And I think, if you look at Mason's schedule, when you look at the A-10, a lot of teams who they're going to be playing, even in the non-conference, there's going to be a lot of nights where George Mason has the best player on the court, in Josh Oduro. You already spoke about the backcourt for George Mason at length, but when you have a guy like that you can throw the ball down to on the block and score, you're going to be a tough team to beat, man. And Now he's starting to develop the three ball a little bit, being able to stretch the floor. So, I mean, he's going to be a matchup nightmare for whoever team he matches up against, for the rest of the season.
Man, and that dude is a problem, man. Simply put, I mean, he had some moves last night where it just makes you come up off your seat, man. I mean, he in the first half, he had a baseline spin move on Ohio, reversed on the other side of the basket late in the game. He called it elbow ISO, drove baseline, did a little shimmy, faded baseline. I mean, he has a lot in his bag, man. I mean, there's going to be a lot of nights, like you said, where he's the best big man on the floor. Mason's going to have some nights where they have probably the 2 or 3 best players in the game with him and Deshaun Sports, who started 4 years in the Pac-12 at Colorado, man. I mean, they're gonna have some nights where they are simply more talented people, man. And it's gonna be more nights than not, in my estimation, man. Speaking of George Mason, we are pleased to be joined by one of the stars of last night's game, Davonte Ticket Gaines, who chipped in a double-double last night, had 14 points and 10 rebounds in a huge win for George Mason, their first in program history over the University of Maryland. So without further ado, we want to get into our interview with Davonte Gaines. All righty, guys. We are here with the star of the day. We got George Mason Ford, Davonte Ticket Gaines. Obviously, last night, his George Mason Patriots got a huge win, the first in program history over the University of Maryland down in College Park. So obviously, after the game, I had the opportunity to be in the building, man. You and Kim were able to share a nice little hug after the game, man. Obviously, you guys are now on the road, as you got playing James Madison tomorrow. But I mean, just talk to me a little bit about the emotions, that game last night, and what it's been like kind of in the last 12 or so hours since last night.
I mean, that hug that you guys saw us share was just a little remembrance from the past. Alabama game at Tennessee last year, so it's just one of those things. You just say, I knew you had it in you. Think one of those type of hugs, just embracing that part. But definitely, we guys were excited to play that game. I feel like the emotions was there. Everybody was locked in to what our task was, and I feel like all the guys bought in to our system, to our principles and things like that. And I feel like we executed to get the win.
Now, for those who don't know, kind of talk about what that Alabama and Tennessee moment was last year, and kind of how it all came full circle for you yesterday.
Well, it's not a secret. I missed the free throws in the SEC semifinals, and last night I feel like I was in that same position. And after I made those two, I just kind of looked at Coach Kim, and that's where that emotion came from, because like we was in that situation before together. So I feel like me making those free throws and us sharing that hug was really big for me. In the way I feel like Coach Kim has confidence in me as a player.
You mentioned kind of your time at Tennessee briefly, man. I mean, I think for me, watching your game over the past few years, I mean, the biggest development in your game has been your jump shot, man. I mean, you were 3 for 22 from 3 in your first 3 at Tennessee. This year, you're 6 for 10 on the year shooting the ball, man. So I mean, talk to me a little bit about the improvement that you've made in that area, from the time of Tennessee to this year at George Mason.
I think the biggest thing was me just keep putting the work in, staying confident as a scorer, as a shooter, and just working on my game over the summer, over the spring. I mean, in spring and summer, it was just one of the things I wanted to develop and be helpful. So when I came to Mason, that was just one of the things on my list. I felt like, all right, if I could do this, I could really help the team in different ways. So I feel like just me putting the time in the gym, coaches working with me to work on my shot, work on the things that I felt like I needed to change about it, or things I needed to keep the same. So I feel like it was just me just locking into that one thing. And so far I've been able to make some shots.
Now, one thing Coach English said, in the press conference last night was that you guys expected to win. Kind of walk us through what your guys' preparation was, what the mentality was coming to that game that allowed you guys to, not only believe you can win, but, go in there expecting to win. I feel like if Kim was on here, he would say, that the win, wasn't an upset, in his eyes. But kind of talk about that aspect, from your end, inside the locker room. What was Coach saying to you guys that kind of instilled that confidence that you guys were going in the Xfinity Center yesterday expecting to win that game?
Honestly, I feel like we didn't change anything that we did as far as preparing for the game. We knew there was a ranked team, we knew all that stuff. But as far as our preparation, we kind of just kind of just locked in on the things that we want to do as a team, no matter who we're facing, whether it was like the first 3 games we had or whether it was Maryland. I feel like we just locked in on our principles, talked about the things we wanted to do, get the things we wanted to run them out of, stuff like that. But I feel like as far as our preparation goes, nothing was very different preparing for this game. And like you said, he said we expected to win. I feel we got a lot of older guys on our team. Like, we're not a young team. We got some old guys. So I feel like us just bringing that leadership and letting them know, like don't think too much about it. It's just another game on our schedule, things like that. So just bringing that leadership from the older guy transfers and the guys that being us older, just being locked in and helping the young guys who got minutes last night be locked in as well. I feel like that was really big for us.
You mentioned the old guys that you guys have. I think that's the thing, in my opinion, that makes you guys, so talented and so dangerous to the teams, that you have guys, like yourself that have played in big-time games in the SEC and the NCAA tournament. Deshaun also that played, in the Pac-12 and in NCAA tournament games. And Davonte also has played in the NCAA tournament game, another older guy. I mean, talk to me about what you guys bring to that team and how, you guys' experience, has allowed you guys to be so confident this season.
I could just speak on the Deshaun. He's just one of those guys who's just so calm in every situation that he's in. Guys look to him for leadership because, like, he's one of the older guys, 5th year, things like that. So it's just been really good watching him mold with the team, develop. Davonte as well. He's one of those guys. He doesn't say very much, but when he does say something, guys listen, because just the respect that we as a team have for the older guys. And for myself, just bringing energy, that just the way I play, just try to speak to the team in that way. And being vocal as well. I feel like we just bring a sense of leadership to the team with Josh as well. Josh is junior, Xavier Johnson, just all has been older guys, just bringing the young guys along with us, teaching them the ropes, things like that. They got questions, answering, and make sure we could just help them the best way we can. But I feel like the older guys, so far with the leadership, it's been growing in the right direction, and we hope to continue making sure that we can lead this team.
Now, in the game yesterday, you guys got down early, yesterday in Maryland versus Maryland. You guys were obviously able to kind of cut the lead and then eventually take the lead and hold on to it, for the rest of the game. But what was the turning point for you guys that kind of allowed you guys to flip the switch and, go from trailing, in the early parts of that game to kind of controlling it, for the majority in the second half?
I feel like in the first media, we kind of sped ourselves up to begin. And then at the first media, we all just kind of looked at each other like, all right, like, we good now. Let's settle in. So it was the type of feeling. So we knew, like, we got the shots we wanted. They weren't falling. We knew we had to get stops. They hit a couple early threes, which getting the lead, had a couple layups. So we felt like we had to just lock in on the defensive end, and we know that shots were eventually going to fall. And kind of went on a run there to take the lead in the first half. With guys hitting shots. Josh had a great move, baseline spin. That really just got us going, like just feeding off each other that way on the defensive end. We knew if we get stops, we knew that shots were going to fall. So we just kind of locked in on defense, just told each other, like, all right, it's time now. We settled in. Let's play. And I feel like after that media timeout, the guys talked to each other. I feel like we really locked in on defensive end, was able to get some stops, and shots started falling.
You mentioned the defense. I mean, you personally are having a great defensive season so far, averaging 8 rebounds, 1 steal, and 1 block a game. I mean, talk about, the things you try to do on defensive end. Watching you, I mean, you're extremely long and active and can kind of guard. Kim, last night you said that you can guard, the 1 through the 5 on defense. I mean, talk a little bit about what you try to bring to the table on that side of the ball.
Just defensively, I think just bringing effort, just being confident, honestly, in my ability to guard those 1 through 5 positions. I feel like Coach Kim trusted me in switching on to 5s or even switching on to point guards. I think the team has a faith in my ability to stand in front of the ball. So I feel like I take that as a pride thing, just being able to get stops and just help my team. Whether it's if I'm help side, stepping over to block a shot or two, playing the passing lanes, things like that. I think that all relates back to just playing hard on the defensive end, and just trying to make plays for your team, winning plays for your team.
Now, one thing, man, Kim has been, in the media a lot, getting on us in the media for saying that George Mason is not a mid-major. I want to know, does he say that to you guys as well? If so, like, is there a specific way that you guys run your program or things that I guess he does with you guys that kind of is causing him to say that George Mason is not a mid-major program, or just the way you guys carry yourselves? Like, what is that? Is that just something that is just that, that Kim says, or is that something that he preaches to you guys, as a program?
I'm not really sure, but I could say that I just think like we have the staff that's coming from high majors. Kim was at Tennessee. Coach Nate was at Colorado. Coach Felton been everywhere. Coach Simp been everywhere. Played at the high major level. So I just feel like the coaching staff brings a level of experience that just shows us that we can be a great program as far as like him saying that us not being a mid-major, but definitely the way we carry ourselves, the way we run our program is a thing that we take pride in, and one of the things that Coach Kim take pride in.
I've been, watching kind of just you and Kim last night and over the course of the first few games. I mean, obviously, it seems like you guys have a pretty good relationship, man. I mean, obviously, when he posted you after you entered the portal, and obviously after he got the job at George Mason, I mean, what stuck out to you about the opportunity to kind of be able to join him here at George Mason, man, and why did you ultimately, trust him and decide to come here for your third year?
So when Coach Kim came to Tennessee, kind of like connected with him early on because like he was just so young, coming in as a coach and being able to connect to him that way. He also was an NBA player, college player, great college player, things like that. So just connected with him on a basketball level as well as off the court. I feel like just having talked to him just about life was one of the main things that really stuck out to me about Coach Kim early on. And then obviously once he got the job here, I was happy for him, like proud of him, and I ended up entering the portal. And it was always a thought like, all right, like Coach Kim just went to Mason, like just weighing my options, things like that. And I ultimately made the decision to come here because I trust him. He's one of the guys that I know got my best interests, and kind of was a no-brainer after a while.
Now, one thing, man, I mean, me and my brother, we're DMV guys, man, and we can remember a time where George Mason was in the Final Four, back in 2006. And, after you guys won last night, we're texting back and forth, in our group chat with some other folks. And a lot of people were saying that this team reminds a lot of people of that in the area, of that 06 Final Four team, for Mason. Obviously, after you guys beat UMD last night, there were a lot of people in the area, man, who were really excited and who were rallying behind you guys because it's been a while since George Mason has been relevant on that national level. What does it mean for you to kind of be able to get a win like that last night and put George Mason, back in that national conversation, competing for at-large bids and NCAA tournament berths?
Like you said, just like the fan base, people around for the area, I think it's really good for those fans of George Mason and fans of the DMV area. Just me coming here this first year with the guys that we brought in, the guys that have been here. Every team goal is to win championships, and I feel like we take that to personally, like just building our program every day, take steps toward that. We know, like, not look too far ahead, things like that. So we're just trying to focus on one game at a time type of mindset. And ultimately, if you do the right thing, handle all your business, stick to your principles, things like that, and win and take care of yourself.
Now, obviously, you guys had a fast start to the season. You guys are 4-0. Obviously, already have a ranked win. You guys are going to be able to play Nevada, South Dakota State, Georgia, Washington remaining on your non-conference schedule. And then you got to go head into the A-10 schedule as well. I mean, what are your goals for the remainder of the season, man? And what does a successful season look like for you guys this year at Georgia? Obviously, people talk, like Drew said, compare you to the Final Four team, but obviously, what does a successful season look like for you guys this year?
Oh, yeah, like I just said, just for us, just to keep winning games, keep growing as a program. We're obviously not where we want to be. It's November. Playoffs is in February, March, things like that. So I feel like just us as a team want to just keep building and working on things that we feel like creates championship teams, whether that's guarding, rebounding, toughness, all those type of things. So I just feel like us building this team up from now until to the end of the season, I think it's great. Well, I foresee what we could become in the future if we keep building on those things and keep getting better every day, and just taking every game as like play it like it's your last, because you never know. So I feel like us just getting better every day, gelling, coming closer as a team, trusting the coaching staff. Those things is going to take care of itself, and winning comes along with that.
I can't let you get off the pod, man, without asking you, man. I mean, you got one of the best nicknames that I've heard, man. So you gotta let us know, man. Where'd you get the nickname from, man? Because I can't lie, man. It's fresh. I like it.
Oh, I'm probably like 10 years old when they start calling me Ticket. Um, my first year playing AAU, I never played AAU until I was about 10 or 11. And it was one of my first years. And I think coming back from a tournament, I had a real good tournament, like my first time with the team. And we just in a car riding back, and someone's like, "Hey, I'm going to need tickets to your game." And like somebody was like, "Ain't that they used to be Kevin Garnett?" And they're like, "Oh, you Ticket? Like, we're gonna call you Ticket." So I just kind of built from that. In high school, had a great career in high school, and that's when they started calling me the Big Ticket, things like that. And it just stuck with me since I was 10 years old.
Or man, shoot, man, definitely a fire nickname, man. Drew and I definitely it was great seeing you guys win last night, man. It's been awesome seeing where Jordan Mason has kind of come in such a short time from last year and the year before to this year, man. And I think you got a big game tomorrow against Jamie Madison, the rest of the non-conference as well, man. So we don't want to take up too much of your time. So we definitely want to thank you for coming on today, man, and definitely want to wish you guys luck tomorrow and the rest of your season as well.
Thank you. I appreciate you for having me.
No doubt, man. Appreciate you.
All righty, guys. That was Davonte Ticket Gaines, man. He's definitely, going to be a huge key for that George Mason team, man, just because of what he can do defensively, man. I mean, this guy is long. He has great switchability, man, and he showed an improved jump shot, man. I mean, this guy, like I said, was 3 for 22 from 3 his first 2 seasons at Tennessee, and is 6 for 10, 60% shooting the basketball from 3-point range. This is obviously, a small sample size, but he is certainly a guy that's going to be huge for their success. This is going to be his ability to kind of be that glue guy that really can do a little bit of everything, man. Can defend, can make shots, can score, can rebound. I mean, this dude is 6'7", long. I mean, he can have opportunity if he continues to develop his basketball, his outside ability in his floor game, and he has opportunity to be a pro. Because those are the type of guys that make the NBA, man. 6'7", long, can defend more positions, can shoot. He's a guy with extremely, extremely high upside, man. He's going to be one of the most important players for Mason because he's, like I said, the guy that can play in the post, can play on the perimeter, and can defend all 5 positions on the floor, man.
Yeah, I mean, I can remember a specific play, man, where Fats Russell had a breakaway layup, and Tigger was able to get a big-time block there in the second half. And I think, kind of just speaks to, like you said, his defensive ability. I can see why he was recruited to the SEC at a school like Tennessee based on his length and athletic ability. I think for him to be at Mason now, man, I think he's definitely kind of like the Swiss Army knife, for those guys. What you're gonna get from Schwartz and Cooper out of the backcourt from a scoring standpoint, and Oduro in the post. But I mean, if he can be a double-figure scorer for them, and then provide what he provides on the defensive end, now you have 4 guys that are out there. I mean, they're gonna be tough to beat.
Yeah, man. And I don't want to, slight Xavier Johnson, man, because he was great last night as well. He didn't score the ball, but he had 5 assists and 1 turnover, man. And he was great, just kind of handling that pressure, man. And Fats Russell was a pest defensively, man. He's guarding him 94 feet at times, and he didn't turn the ball over. You know what I'm saying? And Kim English after the game said, at times he didn't initiate the offense as well as he would like, but just being able to kind of withstand that pressure. Maryland obviously got down in that game, and they were pressing, full court late in that game, man. And he was extremely solid handling the ball, man. Obviously, you have a point guard that's getting everybody else the ball, getting your scorers the ball, getting Schwartz and Cooper the ball on the wings, getting Oduro the ball in the right spots. He's not turning the ball over, man. He's going to be a key for them down the stretch, kind of just his solid play. Being a facilitator and kind of initiating offense for them. He has good size as well on him, for a point guard, man. He's also really good defensively, man. So he's going to be an X factor for them as well down the stretch.
For sure, man. George Mason is definitely going to be a fun team, man, especially when they get, some of those young guys into rotation and get them some more experience. I mentioned, Blake Jones hit a big-time corner 3 yesterday, man. I mean, so if they can get him going, get some more shots off of the bench, I think that, obviously, and they even have some injuries, man. DMV guy, Ronnie Plyte's been recovering from hip injury. So, I mean, I think they're going to have a lot of options, man, later in the season as far as guys that they can play, different lineups and things like that, man. So, definitely, watch out for the Patriots.
Yeah, man, you speak about opportunity later in the season, man. Mason, in my opinion, going to have opportunity to get an at-large bid. They're now 4-0. They just have a win. They got to win over a top 25 team. A team that, in my estimation, is one of the top 5 or 6 teams in the Big Ten. we know how much the committee loves the Big Ten. The committee, last year, I believe the Big Ten got like 9 teams in the NCAA tournament. Those computer numbers are going to go up as the season goes on if Maryland continues to take care of business in the Big Ten. And then George Mason is still going to play. They're going to play George Mason tomorrow. They're going to play Jaden Madison tomorrow on the road. Then they're going to head to South Dakota for the crossover classic where they're going to play Washington, Nevada, and South Dakota State. All 3 of those teams are quality. I mean, Washington is off to a rough start. I mean, they're 2-1. They took a bad loss earlier in the year on their home court to Northern Illinois beat them earlier in the year. And then you're also going to be able to play South Dakota State, who was, a top 100 KenPom team. Their team that just projected to win their league this season, NCAA tournament team in most people's estimation. And then Nevada, who had high hopes coming into the year. They're off to a 1-2 start. But they're obviously one of the better teams in the Mountain West. And if they can get going in the Mountain West in conference play, again, those wins are going to look better, down the line. They're also going to play Georgia in their non-conference as well. Then they're going to get into A-10 play, where they're going to play obviously St. Bonaventure, Richmond, VCU, who got a huge win last night over Vanderbilt. So they're going to have opportunities, man. I mean, if they enter, March 25-5 or something like this, they're going to get an at-large bid. As long as they don't have any terrible losses, they're going to have a chance to get an at-large bid, man. And I think that if they can have an opportunity to go out to the crossover classic, if they go 3-0, then they're almost, I think, they're squarely in the at-large conversation. If they were to drop, a game here or there, if they go 2-1 in the losses to South Dakota State, who's going to be an NCAA tournament team, then obviously it's essentially a true road game. They're going to South Dakota. The committee's going to value that. They're going to give them some slack there. But I'm going to be looking at that crossover classic as a huge opportunity for George Mason to kind of cement themselves as a true, at-large candidate out there in South Dakota.
Yeah, man, I think we'll see. I'm not truly on the George Mason at-large wagon yet just because I don't know if the committee is going to value the victories over Washington and Nevada if they, are able to get those wins. And like a Georgia team is going to be at the bottom of the SEC, a Washington team is going to be at the bottom of the Pac-12, and a Nevada team who's struggling, right now. So, I mean, last year the Mountain West was like, what, a two bid league, maybe three bid league? So, three bid league last year.
San Diego State and Colorado State get in?
I think it was 2. I don't think Colorado or Boise got in.
Colorado State and Boise both were in the NIT, so Utah State.
So the Mountain West was a 2-bid league last year. I think this year you're trending towards, San Diego State, Colorado State, maybe Boise, maybe Nevada, maybe. But I mean, I think it's going to be a 2 or 3 bid Mountain West this year. I don't know if Nevada's going to be in that top 3. We'll see. But I feel like for George Mason, man, I think their best bet is to use these non-conference games to just get more confidence. Obviously, when you have a first-year coach, you have new guys. I think the best thing that they can do is kind of build that chemistry. We've seen St. Bonaventure kind of get off to a shaky start. Like you mentioned, they're in a battle, right now as we speak, and they haven't really looked the best early on in the non-conference schedule, man. So, I mean, if George Mason can kind of build that camaraderie in this non-conference, maybe they can challenge St. Bonaventure for A-10 title. And I think that will kind of help their case, obviously getting into the tournament that way because, we all know St. Bonaventure has Kyle Lofton and Osun and a very old team. They're well coached. They already had that chemistry and that camaraderie. So if George Mason can kind of use these non-conference games to kind of gel a little bit more, build that chemistry, then I think that, come A-10 play, they can be a team that could potentially win an A-10 championship and maybe go dancing that way.
Yeah, I mean, if they win the A-10, they're getting the automatic bid. But I think if you mess around and make it run to the A-10 championship, you lose to a top 25 team in St. Bonaventure, and you have wins against Maryland, wins against Stony Brook, who could potentially be an NCAA tournament team, wins against, if they were to beat South Dakota State, another NCAA tournament team, Maryland NCAA tournament team. You have 3 non-conference wins against NCAA tournament teams, and you go into the A-10 and you beat, a Richmond, in the regular season who's on the bubble, and you make it to the championship game of your league and lose to a top 25 team. That's an at-large resume, in my opinion. So I think they're going to have the opportunity, man, in order to, firmly put themselves in that conversation, man. But I think that this crossover classic is going to be a huge event. And even for Nevada as well to kind of get back on track. And also, of course, for South Dakota State to kind of earn some quality wins as well, man. So I think after that event, we'll be able to, have a lot more clarity as far as, how good these 4 teams are. If Mason comes out of this thing 3-0 or 2-1, we lost to South Dakota State on the road, I think they're going to be in great shape going forward.
Yeah, I mean, we'll see, man. I know the tournament, when it comes to the committee, they're viewing these, you need to have quad one wins. A road win at Maryland is a quad one win, but, a win over Stony Brook is not going to be a quad one win. A win over Washington or Nevada is not going to be a quad one victory. So I just don't know if they're going to have enough of those quad one wins to get their into the tournament. We saw that kind of hurt a lot of teams last year that were on the bubble. So, we'll see. We'll see. But obviously, rooting for George Mason to get in there and our guy Kim English to make it happen, one way or another.
Yeah, I mean, we'll see what happens in the A10 play. They have an opportunity to get some quad one wins in A10 play as well, for sure. So, like you said, man, we'll see what happens, man. Definitely. It's exciting that we're even talking about this conversation because we haven't been able to even talk about Jordan Mason being remotely in this conversation over the past few years, man. And I love Dave Paulson as a person, man. I think he's a good guy. But Kim English has just been what he's been able to do, through these first part of his coaching career, man, has been really impressive, man. So glad to see Jordan Mason back on the map in the area. But speaking of the A10, man, it's time for the craziest thing we saw this week, man. And, I think this news that broke yesterday was huge, man. I mean, we found out that Loyola Chicago is going to be joining the Atlantic 10, I believe in the 2022-2023 year, or is it next season? 2023, right? Yeah. They're going to be joining the Atlantic 10 in the 2022-2023 season, man. This came kind of out of nowhere. I mean, I didn't hear anything about this leading up to yesterday. And then it dropped on Twitter, and it was like, whoa, this is huge, man. I mean, I say a huge loss for the Missouri Valley, but a big gain for the Atlantic 10, man. So, I mean, Drew, what were your initial reactions to the news that Loyola Chicago will be joining the Atlantic 10?
Yeah, I mean, my initial thoughts was just wow. I was shocked, but I think this is great for the conference, man, because the Atlantic 10 has been down, recently, man. I mean, I can remember a time not too long ago where the A10 got 6 teams in the tournament. I saw John Rothstein make a note about this. The non-conference schedule, I think it was like when they played 14 A10 games, obviously teams were able to get 2 extra non-conference games in. They were able to get 6 teams in the tournament. That's a far cry from last year when they were only able to get 2 teams in the tournament in VCU and St. Bonnie's. So the A10 has been really down in recent years. So when you're able to add another quality team in Loyola Chicago who has, at-large top 25 ability, I think that's amazing for the conference. You add that with St. Bonaventure, your VCUs, your George Masons, who's going to be there in the next couple of years. I think that bodes really well for the conference, man. You want to have as many opportunities to get teams into the tournament, from an at-large standpoint as you can. So I think that was a great move for the A10. Obviously, you're bringing in another team from Chicago. It's not you're going to have teams in New York. You're going to have teams in D.C., Chicago, Philly. So I think it's great for the A10 to be able to take over, another major media market and bring in a quality team like Loyola Chicago, who's, got a young head coach and Drew Valentine, in year one, who's going to be able to kind of insert some new energy into that program. And I think that, it just speaks to, where that program is going in the next few years and where the A10 is potentially trying to get back to in the next few years.
For sure, man. I think it's going to be great for the league, man. I mean, I talked a lot about the computer numbers with Mason, man. You're bringing in another team, that is currently a top 35 team in KenPom, a team that is going to be able to, bring the A10 back to, that period where they obviously, John Rothstein alluded to it, where they had 6 teams. You had your, Xavier's and Temples, and I think it might have been when Butler was still in the A10, and
St. Joe's when they had DeAndre Bembry.
With Bembry, man, and St. Bonaventure, man. I mean, I think those were the days, man, when the A10 was truly a great league, because you had multiple teams that were going in the non-conference and that were beating high majors. You know what I'm saying? So you're gonna add Royal Chicago to a VCU, to a Dayton, to a Richmond, schools that have been able to have some success recently, man. I think it's gonna make the league. The numbers are gonna be huge, man. Not if Drew Valentine, can get that program, up to the same level that Porter Moser. Porter Moser has had it over the past 2 years, man. And obviously, that Drew Valentine versus Kim English bowl is going to be huge, man. See who next coach at Maryland/Michigan State is going to be, man. Both of these guys are going to, have their names floating for a lot of head coaching rumors over the next few years, man. So it's great for the A10, man. Great for the league to add a program of that caliber. Another program with Final Four experience. Obviously, there's been VCU we've seen go to the Final Four, and George Mason, has been in the Final Four, man. So it's gonna be great for the league, man, to have another team in that conference with that type of history, that kind of pedigree, going forward.
Yeah, for sure, man. I think the question that's kind of been floating around ever since Viola came is now the A10 is at 15 members. So are they going to try to add a 16th team? We've seen people say the Temple needs to come back. I heard a couple other schools that have been floating around potentially joining the A10, but also there have been rumors of teams that potentially could be leaving the A10. A school like LaSalle, who's rumored to have been struggling financially. A school like a Fordham, who hasn't really been able to kind of compete in the A10 in basketball in recent years. I think it's definitely a question to be asked. Which direction is the A10 going to go? Are they going to try to downsize? Maybe the team going to leave? Are they going to try to invite one more team and get to 16? But nonetheless, man, I think that it's going to be definitely. I'll say this: I don't think that this is going to be the last moving piece that we see from the A10 within the next calendar year. I think there's going to be another team that's going to either enter the league, or I think that there could be a team that potentially leaves the A10 within the next year. But that's just my 2 cents on it.
I think personally, people would love to see Temple get back to the A10. But I think it's gonna be tough because of the football, man. Temple's kind of going through a crisis right now with the athletic department managers. They don't want to know if they want to be a football school or basketball school, man. It's tough to turn down that football money with the TV contract, with the American contract, the American Conference has right now with ESPN and all the broadcasting rights, man. It brings in a good amount of money to have football. And Atlanta, as we know, is a basketball conference. You know what I'm saying? And Temple basketball has struggled ever since they moved to the A10, man. To the AAC, excuse me. Similarly with UConn, man, who went to the AAC, and their basketball program struggled. And they went back to their roots in the Big East, and it helped their program tremendously, in just, a 2-year period, man. So I would love to see that happen with Temple, man. You mentioned LaSalle. there have been some rumors saying that Monmouth might be trying to leave to go to the CAA. And if that were to happen, man, it would be interesting to see what the MAC does if they could take a team like a LaSalle who was in the MAC previously to kind of go back to that league and kind of help them out from a competing standpoint, man, or even afford them, to go to the MAC. I think would make sense, geographically based on where they are, and I think it would give them a better opportunity to kind of compete, especially in basketball, man. So I think it's definitely going to be interesting to see with a lot of these conferences, man. There's been a lot of realignment. We've seen Oklahoma and Texas are going to the SEC, and Belmont joined the Missouri Valley, and there've been a bunch of other things that the Atlantic Sun, I believe, is adding some teams, and the Southland lost. I think Stephen F. Austin, some other teams. It's absolute pandemonium with what's going on right now in college basketball with this realignment, man. So definitely not the first, and it won't be the last that we're going to see over the next year or so.
Yeah, man, we're getting ready to lose one of our teams in the mid-major poll officially. BYU is going to be heading to the Big 12. So, this is probably going to – I don't know if that's happening next year or in 2 years, a couple years, but I know that, BYU is going to be heading to the Big 12, man. So, we're going to have to enjoy having them in our mid-major rankings, because they're not going to be a mid-major for much longer, man. They're going to be departing the WCC for the Big 12 real soon, man. But after the shellacking they just put on Oregon – they pretty much run things like a high major right now. So we may as well just, get everybody just may as well get mentally prepared for that now, man.
Yeah, for sure, man. The mid-major poll is definitely going to take a hit next year, man, losing BYU. But, hey, man, it's part of the game, man. When they leave, somebody else will step in. It's going to be a great addition for the Big 12, kind of getting that brand that BYU has established, over the past few years, man. So it's gonna be huge for them, kind of, because losing Texas and Oklahoma was huge. And they're also going to be taking in Houston, UCF, and I believe the other one was a US. It was Houston, BYU, UCF. I think it's another Florida school. I want to say it might have been. I don't think it's USF though. I can't think of the other school right now. But the Big 12 is going to take in a few other schools, man. So we'll see what happens, man. But it's gonna do it for this episode, man. It's been a lot of fun topping it up with you guys, man. Hope you guys enjoyed the interview with Ticket Games and our breakdown of the mid-major rankings and the games to look forward to for this week, man. So definitely, wish you guys the best. As always, want to remind you guys, make sure you guys are tapping in to all of our content, and make sure you guys are liking, subscribing, retweeting, man. Give us a rating on social media. Give us a rating on Spotify and Apple when you listen to this podcast, man. Tell a friend about the auto bid, man. And as always, make sure you stream my guy, Pull Up Tay's project, Why Stop Now, is out on all platforms, man. Apple, Spotify, SoundCloud, YouTube, wherever you listen to music, man. His project is out, man. Make sure you're tapping in to all his music, man. This is gonna be him on the outro. And as always, man, Thank you guys, and we'll catch you guys next week. This has been another episode of the Auto Bid.
Last shot, I'm Jordan in the clutch, boy. You beating on me? It's time to get a check, boy. You on the sideline, you ain't made the headlines. Now it's time to reject, boy. You beating on me? What's the topic of discussion? What we talking about? Take your best shot, I'ma take the last shot. I'm Jordan in the clutch, boy.